Welcome back to the Referral Mastery course. This is session 8. Today we're going to be talking about how to launch your Trusted Advisor program, and that is going to include a discussion around the hard copy items of value, how you actually do now mail those out to your advocates, because there's a certain covering letter you're going to put with those. And we're also going to include in that a discussion around the first newsletter that goes out to the whole database, B-list and advocates. So there's a lot we got to cover today. I want to start, as always, by having a look at the apple tree thus far. If you've been keeping up with the steps toward mastery, this is where you should be by now. And in fact, if you've not been keeping up with the homework, if we can call it that, I would strongly suggest you switch this video off here and you now go back and complete everything so that you are up to date and ready to do what we are going to do today, which is to send out your first batch of items of value. So if we look at the apple tree, by now you should have built, sorted, captured, and primed your database. So you would have made a big list, sorted it down to your 100 to 300 advocates, typed that up onto some kind of contact management system. Everybody else was a B list. That goes onto your contact management system as well, or at least a bulk email system. And then you would have phoned through all of your advocates and primed them using the database primer dialog, and I trust that you got a lot of leads while you were doing that. It's very common for agents to do so. We've looked at a couple of the dialogues so far, the database primer dialog being the first one. Then we looked at the database filter dialog, which is another way to add people to your database. When you're out and about every day and meeting new people, there's this little question you can ask them in order to get their permission to keep in touch, and then you add them onto your database, whether they go on as a B or even go straight in as an advocate if you feel like it's someone good. And that question simply was, hey, if you were buying or selling your home, or you had a friend or a family member was, do you have an agent you'd refer them to? If they say no, you say, great, I'd love to keep in touch. Then we shifted our attention across to the written communication, and we've covered two of the primary tools for communicating with your database. And the first one was handwritten notes, and the second one, which is what we did in our last session, was items of value. And I got you to do that whole ChatGPT exercise in order to draft the next 12 value items and design them and actually produce them. So that's where you should be now. You should have your first item of value in hand, ready to go. How do we now send them out to the database, and how do we design this newsletter that goes out to the big database every month? Well, that's our first question, is how to send your items of value. And the first important point I want to make is that your items of value will always be accompanied by a covering letter. A covering letter. Let's begin with the emailed version of the item of value. Remember, you're going to have a monthly newsletter that goes out via email to everybody, advocates and B-list. And what you're going to send every month is the item of value. Now, there are a number of ways you can do that, and I want to go through some of them, and you can choose which one you think works best for you. The principle is the covering letter for the item of value that you write will essentially be the body of the email, and then the item of value that you've now gone and produced, high color, beautiful thing that ChatGPT wrote for you, that needs to get attached to the email somehow. And let's go into the options. So for the emailed version of the item, the covering letter will be in the body of the email, while the item of value itself can be either inserted into the email as an image, and that would be a PNG or a JPEG image. And there's an example on that slide on the screen. You'll see the little covering letter, just a paragraph above the item, dear Mr. Jones, there's a little intro. Then the item of value actually gets inserted into the email itself. And then at the bottom, a little closing, hey, let me know if there's everything I can do for you. Cheers, Stephen. So that's option number one. Then the second option is to attach the item of value to the email as a PDF. Now, this is kind of like when you send a normal singular email to someone and you just attach a file. That's kind of like how this is going to work, although on most bulk email service providers like MailChimp, you can't actually attach a file like a normal email. You've got to put a button in there and then program the button on MailChimp. It's easy to do, to when they click it, they download the PDF. It's almost like attaching the file, and that on your screen is what it looks like on MailChimp at least. So there's the covering letter, which is the body of the email, and at the bottom we've got a button that says download the PDF of the item of value now. Your third option is to have a link. So it's accessed online via a link in the email. And this is actually my preferred way of doing things. I send a lot of video content actually out to my database, a little bit different. So I'll sometimes put a thumbnail of the video. I'll have a read more button like this email, but I will also then have a thumbnail inserted where if they click the thumbnail, it takes them to the video on YouTube as well. Now you could do that with your item of value and also have the read more button hyperlinked. And when they click either of those, it takes them to. Now the question is, where does it take them to? Where is the item of value? Now for that, you're either going to need a website of your own. Often your CRM system will give you the functionality of being able to create articles that sit online somewhere. So you can create a blog site or an article page with the item of value simply inserted on that page, or you could do it onto your Facebook business page. I'm not so familiar with Instagram, but maybe you could even have the item of value as a post on Instagram and then link the email to your Instagram post. That way you're driving traffic to your social media pages. Wherever you put the item of value, you're going to copy that link and you're going to paste it into your email. So you'll see there's the body of the email, and it talks a little bit about the item of value, and then it says, if you want to get the item, read more. And people know that's a convention in email, how emails are drafted. People will know, oh, they need to click that to get access to the item of value, and then it takes them to either your website or your Facebook page, wherever you've put the item. Okay, so those are your three options. You can decide which one is best for you. I want to give you a few kind of random tips now on your email newsletter, because you can do a few little tweaks to a monthly email newsletter that make a huge difference to its success. So I just want to throw that in while we're talking about email. The first thing I want to say is use a consistent subject line for your emails. You want your whole database starting to recognize the routine. So you send it at the same time on the same day. So let's say you send it at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. That's when you send your email. You will pre-program it, because with all bulk email service providers, you can actually schedule emails. So you'll probably prepare it once a month on the Monday, and you will schedule it to go the next morning at 9 a.m. so that it always goes at the same time. So let's say the first Tuesday of the month, if you're sending it monthly, which is what I am recommending. And then your subject line will also be standard. So Durbanville property market update or Chicago property market update, and then a dash and the date. So only the date changes, the subject line otherwise stays the same every time, and people start to recognize it. That's the point. The second tip, if you are using a bulk email service like MailChimp, is to set up a standard template for your email. On most email service providers or autoresponders like MailChimp or Constant Contact or whatever, you have the ability, once you've drafted an email for the first time and it's got the sections in it that you really like, it's got your signature at the bottom and you've got that all working nicely, it looks good, you can actually then save that email as a template for future reference, so that every time, once a month, you come in to do your email, you just select that template and it's pre-done, and all you end up having to do is change that month's item of value, but the rest of the little sections stay the same. Now, what sections am I talking about? Well, I recommend you have 2 sections that stay the same in your email every month. First of all, a section for recent market activity, with 2 little subheadings, recently sold and what's on the market. So here's an example of someone, Leandre van Rooyen. You'll see the little body of her email, kind of the covering letter at the top with read more. So she's actually sending her readers to her website to read the item of value. And then she's got another section, which I've labeled section 2 there, which is her recent market activity section with two little subheadings, what's for sale and recently sold. Now, if you use a system like PropCon in South Africa, you must check out your CRM system if it does this. You have the ability to create what they call collage landing pages. So that's a page where you can select multiple listings of your own choice and put them on a single page. So there's a single URL or a single link to that page. And then you can come in every month and change the properties that are on that page, but the link itself never changes. Now think about that. That's powerful, because what that means is in your email, that section number 2 in your template, you don't even have to come in and change those links in the email. It's the same link every month, but behind the scenes on the page that the link takes them to, you are changing the recently sold or what's on the market that you have selected for that page for that month. So see if you can get that right. Otherwise, you'll have to get creative around how you do these two sections in your email. But the point is, with a bulk email, you've got the attention of like 20% of the people that are going to be opening the email. Yes, they will be able to click here and go and see the item of value, but it wouldn't be that bad if their eye were to drift to the bottom of the email and they would see, oh, look, there's some stuff on the market. Let's just go and have a little nosy and see what's out there. That's how you can use, online and social media marketing, etc. That's why it works, because we can distract people's attention to where we want it to be. Right, the second section of the email that I think you should just type in as a template and have it standard on every email is obviously your email signature. And you'll see that with Leandre's email at the bottom there. She's got a little signature block that if you click it, it probably takes you to her, well, I know in her case it takes you to her digital business card, which is kind of like an agent bio page that you have for yourself somewhere on the internet. And even if you don't have your own website with your own About Me page, you can use the EXP website. You will have a profile page on EXP's public website. Okay, now back to the original discussion we were having. Let me just remind you where we were. How to send out your first batch of items of value. We've talked about the email now. The covering letter basically goes in the body of the email, and then you link the item of value somehow. And I gave you 3 options. Now let's talk about the hard copy version, because you're going to email the item of value to everybody, but only your 300 advocates, or how many you got, only they are going to get an actual hard copy, high gloss, beautifully printed color version of the item, together with a covering letter on the top. So 2 pieces of paper are going to go in your envelopes. So let's talk about that. For the hard copy version of the item to be snail mailed to your advocates, you will print out the covering letters to accompany it. Now, if you can, find someone clever around you, or do a Google search, or ask ChatGPT. It'll tell you how to do this. Figure out on your computer how to mail merge Word documents or pages, if you're on a Mac, how to mail merge the first name of your advocates into 300 letters, covering letters. So that when you print the letters, it prints 300 letters, and everyone has got someone's name on it. Dear Bill, it'll say at the top. Dear Mary, the next one will say, Dear Sophie, Dear Clarence. You get the picture. If you can figure that out, it's obviously so much better when people get it in the mail, they open it up and it says, Dear Stephen. It's not just Dear Clients. If you can't get it right, don't let that stop you. Just say Dear Clients, okay? Okay, so we've said that every month your item of value goes with some kind of covering letter. In your very first month, when you launch your program, the covering letter is not just some standard introduction to your item of value for the month. There's a special letter we're going to use for your launch, and you've got one of 2 options. Now, that's what we're going to do for the rest of the session today. Your very first items of value will be accompanied by a special introductory covering letter. Use one of the following as appropriate: the TAP intro letter or the Guilt pledge letter. So let's have a look at the TAP intro letter. Who's this for? Well, this is for people that you have had recent contact with. It's probably easiest answered actually, who gets the introduction letter as opposed to the guilt pledge letter? Well, everybody who does not get the guilt pledge letter, guilt pledge meaning you're going to plead guilty for not having kept in touch as you should have. For everyone who doesn't really need you to plead guilty, they're going to get the introduction letter. Hope that makes sense. So let's read the introduction letter together. Dear Mrs. Jones, I've recently made a decision to build my business exclusively by referral and to improve the level of service I provide to my clients. And so I'm introducing a special complimentary service called my Trusted Advisor program. Every month, I'll send you something that you may find valuable, i.e. an article on current affairs or other information that I think you'll find useful. I've included one of the most recent items called, whatever the item is for the month, and then a little description of it. Because I've decided to work exclusively by referral, I'll make a constant effort to improve the level of service I provide to you as my client. The greatest asset in my business is your respect as my client, and so delivering exceptional service to you is a priority for me. In the near future, I'll contact you either by phone or in person. I look forward to offering you these complimentary special services, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve you as your real estate agent. Yours sincerely, Steve Johnston, or whatever your name is. Okay, that is pretty simple. I don't think I need to expand on that. The other option is the guilt pledge letter. You're going to plead guilty, and this is for people you have not kept in touch with as you should have. Can I see a show of humble hands? How many of you have had clients in the past that you've dealt with and you've had a great experience with them, but that you've not kept in touch with as you should have? You kind of know you should have, but you didn't. Well, all of us will raise our hand to that because we're all guilty of that. So there's going to be a large section of people that you need to kind of reconnect with. Like, why are you contacting me after all this time? That's what the guilt pledge letter is going to do smoothly. So this is about activating your inactive clients. The TAP Guilt Pledge Letter is designed to re-establish relationships which you have neglected to maintain and to introduce these people to your Trusted Advisor program. Let's have a look at the Guilt Pledge Letter. Let's read it together. Dear Mrs. Edwards, I really enjoyed the experience of working together with you when I did, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to be of service. After our transaction was concluded, however, I failed to stay in touch with you, which I believe was inappropriate. For this, I'd like to apologize. What has prompted this letter is that I've recently made a decision to build my business exclusively by referral and to take better care of the relationships in my business. I have come to understand that it is relationships with valued clients like you that are the most important and valuable asset in my business. And so, in an effort to build my business exclusively by referral, I intend taking much better care of my relationship with you in the future. If I could stop there for a second, you're going to notice how many times in the communication that I'm suggesting you send, whether it's covering letters or handwritten notes, whatever, we are using the word referral. I have decided to work by referral. That was also in the database primer dialogue. And I have decided to work exclusively by referral. Your referrals are so important to me. I promise to look after anybody you refer to me. We are doing this with specific purpose and cause. This is a deliberate strategy. The more you use certain language over and over and over and over again, the more it starts sinking into the people you're speaking to. This is about creating critical mass with your advocates. We want you to be using this language. Okay, on we go. With all this in mind, I'd like to introduce you to a special complimentary service I'll be offering selected clients and past clients, my Trusted Advisor program. Every month, I will send you an item of value, something that I believe you will find valuable. I have attached an example of such an item called, whatever that month's item is. I look forward to having more regular contact with you in the future and rebuilding our relationship. Yours sincerely, Stephen. And you can have a little O, by the way, at the bottom of your letters if you want to. Okay, so hopefully that all makes sense to you. In short, you are going to, in the next 2 weeks, send out your first batch of items of value. You are going to do that via hard copy printed versions to your advocates, either with the introduction letter or with the guilt pledge letter. Those get posted out, mailed to your database. You are also going to email the item of value to the entire database, including the advocates and your B list, and you can choose how you insert or attach or link the item to the email. That's where we've gone today. So follow up. The following formula must be followed after sending your letters. Number 1, make a follow-up phone call. And number 2, send them a handwritten note. That should not be news to you. You should start to recognize that as the cycle of communication for your referral system. Items of value, followed up by personal contact, followed up by a handwritten note. That's the little cycle. Calls, notes, pop-bys, items of value. That's the system. You keep that up over a period of a year to 2 years, I promise you your life will never be the same again. It's taken a whole lot of hard work to get you to this point now, where you've had to organize a database, you'd have to design your items of value, you've had to buy personal note cards and stamps and get into some new routines. There's a whole lot of work you've done to get here, but once you've got to this point, it's now just the daily, weekly, and monthly routine of the communication, the cycle. And hopefully that's starting to make sense to you. So let's update our Apple tree before we close. You'll see on the left-hand side under written communication, we've added tool number 3, which is the TAP intro letter, and tool number 4, which is the Guilt pledge letter. And your Apple tree is now up to date for where we are. Steps toward mastery, well, there's just one step over the next 2 weeks, and that is to send out your first batch of items of value, both email and hard copy. Well, God bless you. I hope that you have managed to stay with me, that you're now ready to send out your first items, and really your referral system is about to launch, which is very exciting, and I trust it's going to be a blessing to you and to all your clients. In our next session, we are going to go on a little rabbit trail, and I want to discuss responding to referrals, because you are going to start getting referrals now, and there are certain things you should do when you get a referral. We're going to discuss things like, how do you get the lead warm so that when you phone them they're expecting your call? How do you reward people when they do refer you? What do you give your advocates if they send you a referral? These are all questions we're going to address in our next session, and I look forward to being with you then.